Welcome to the Right Room, where we explore the stories, lessons, and transformations that inspire us to step into our power and purpose. I'm your host, Hillary Phelps, and today's episode is all about waking up to what's on your plate, literally. Imagine struggling with chronic inflammation, low energy, and medications that only seem to mask the symptoms. Now imagine finding out that the solution isn't in a doctor's office, but in the ingredient list on the foods that you are eating every day. That's the journey of today's guest, Jen Smiley. Jen is the founder of Wake Up and Read the Labels, a leader in the clean eating movement who is as relatable and real as she is revolutionary. She's also a podcast host, a mom, a wife, whose passion for clean eating not only transformed her health, but turned into a business that helps others do the same. Today, we're diving into how food affects your mood, health, and energy, plus practical tips on how to read labels and find foods made with real ingredients. Welcome to the Right Room. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the Right Room. How are you?
I'm super, Hillary. I'm excited to help wake people up with this conversation.
I know. You just shared some exciting news with me right before we hit record. And so I'm super excited to dive into that. But before we go to there, I want to talk a little bit about, jump right into who you are, what you're doing, what you do, and a little bit about what brought you to the point of making big waves in the food industry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name's Jen Smiley. I'm born and raised in New Orleans, so we know all about, eating good food. Not good for you, let's say that, but good tasting. Love
right.
some food, right? I was brought up by two entrepreneurs. My parents got married 15 and 17, started a small corner grocery store in the middle of what we call the Ninth Ward, which is a low-income community here. They grew it quickly within like 7 years. They had multiple locations. They were in the Inc. 500, all the things. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Now, I haven't always been that. The most important job that I have is I'm a mom of two boys and I'm a wife of 14 years now.
Cool.
And here we are settled in New Orleans, and I'm going through the whole, mom life in the beginning where I'm trying to make my baby's food, but this is taking way too much time. It's way easier to go get it from the jar or the pouch. Trying to buy healthy things for my baby, but really I'm just buying things that say gluten-free or low fat. So anyway, I was a stay-at-home mom for about 8 years, and my husband, Seth, he is a lawyer, but he's also an avid runner. And he started reading all these blogs, and he's really into, like your husband, or your partner, he's into longevity stuff, and he's always trying to get better and faster and feel better. And he's like, hey, Jen, can you start cooking all veggies, or can we cut out gluten? And so without really understanding the real connection between food and health, I just started cutting back on certain things and noticing, well, now I feel a little different when I don't, eat bread all day, or now I feel a little different that I've omitted dairy for the week. So it kind of sent me on this wake up mission, because I used to be the girl in the back of the workout class, red faced, my sports bras hanging on by one hook, right? Only one pair of stretchy pants actually fit in my closet. My skin is breaking out. I'm freaking exhausted during every class. Like, I was in the back taking my inhaler 3 times during a 1-hour workout. I'm looking at everyone going, why can they do it, but I can't? And I'm in my 20s, I'm getting prescribed to Nexium for heartburn. I'm like, what's going on? So that brings me to my wake up mission. I woke up every morning and I would take my babies through the grocery store, and I'm reading every single package.
Wait, when was this? What's the timeline?
Yep, this was let me think, when my kids were born. I guess the first one was 2010. So this was around 2012.
Okay.
So it's about 12 years now? 13 years? 13 years.
Yeah. And so this was kind of your moment of transition.
Yes. This was like...
So 13 years ago.
Yes. Yes. And once you see what I'm about to tell you, you can't unsee it. So I
love this.
I had to keep going, right? So one day I'm like walking home from a workout class, and I'm drinking a Premier protein drink. And on the front, it says, 35 grams of protein, no added sugars, no artificial flavorings, and reduce sodium, like all these billboard kind of tactics, I should say. Then I flip it over, and it's like, the tiniest writing ever. You need a magnifying glass. You need to like go online and actually search for the ingredients, which by the way, are very hard to find online. They give you nutrition facts, they give you these numbers to disguise what's actually in the bottle. But it dawned on me that I couldn't recognize these ingredients. I couldn't pronounce these ingredients. I couldn't even identify these ingredients. And I thought, wait, if this is in my protein, well, what's in my ketchup? What's in my bread, right? What's in my crackers? What's in all these other things? So I ran home, opened the refrigerator, go through my pantry, and I realized, oh my gosh, sodium phosphate and silicon dioxide and enriched things, they exist everywhere. So then I went on a mission going through the groceries. Like this week, I'm going to find a protein with like 2 ingredients. And next week, I'm going to go find dairy-free milk with only 3 real ingredients. And then, I mean, it took me years to research the ingredients. But once I found it, inflammation went away, got off all my medications. My husband's time of running is really fast. We're waking up, we're not bloated, we're losing weight, we have more energy, and that's where we are.
It sounds so simple, but not easy, I imagine, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, because when I first got connected to you, I remember you saying like, I want, how can we clean out your pantry? Like, what are some things that we can replace? And so that's kind of, I think the way, right, in my understanding and what I've known of you, about you and talking to you and working with you is that it's about swapping. It's not about saying no to this. Yeah. Because what happens when we just eliminate things and just cut them out?
Right. Well, I think first of all, when people think of like eating healthy and diet, they think of fish, meat, fruit, and vegetables. And like no one can argue. That's what we should all be eating, right? But that's not what we're eating. We want tacos, we want pizza, we want French fries, right? We want all these foods that have been created. And so people are eliminating, and what's happening is they are feeling restricted, they're feeling deprived, and they're caving in. It's like they're restricting themselves so much that they just go off the deep end. They're like, all right, now I'm just going to eat all the sugar because I'm starving and I got such a headache. But the difference here in Wake Up and Read the Labels is you all these food groups that you feel like you need to restrict from, like your bread and your pasta and your rice, like the white things, so to speak, and your ice creams. You don't. You have to overcome the food industry choices, and you have to be brought awareness as to which companies are actually using real ingredients. There's not many of them, but there's enough of them that you can have all these food groups back into your life, and then you don't feel deprived, and then you can eat your tacos, you can eat your burgers, you can eat your pizza and lose inflammation and feel good.
And I love that because it is like there is such an emotional component to eating, right? Like you tell someone they can't have it, or you tell me I can't have it, it's going to make me want it even more, especially if it's something that it's a family recipe or it's something special in my culture or something like that. And so I remember having that conversation with you about, I think it was tortillas. And you're like, which ones? And I was like, I don't buy them because this one doesn't say organic and this one has this in it and this one has gum in it. And you kind of walk me, you're like, okay, look, gum is better than this, or,
Right.
So what would you say to someone if they were like, oh, I can't, walk me through that again. Like, I can't have tacos, I can't have tortillas, and I can't have this.
You're like, you can't have tortillas. And I say, why? Well, most people are going to say, because it's so much carbs, right? Or I'm trying to go gluten-free. Okay, well, there are companies out there such as Coyotes. It is organic cassava, which is a root vegetable. And then they use water and then they use lime. And that is it. There's no preservatives, there's no gums, there's no fillers. It's just that Coyotes doesn't have the resources and the money to be at your grocery store on eye level, taking up, 4 rows and being on the end cap or anything like that. There's also another company called Siete, which is a bigger company you'll see all over, right? Some of them do have a gum, some of them don't have a gum. But what I tell people is like, if you're eating clean and you're eliminating that enriched flour, you're eliminating those seed oils, you're eliminating so many preservatives, then that little bit of gum on that Siete, if that's all you can find, is going to be better. It's going to help you reach your progress. And it's going to, not make you as bloated if you choose that over the other ones you're restricting yourself from.
I love that. There's so many questions, right? And I want to get to them because I'm thinking like my child, right? And that's when originally when we started talking to it, and I was like, what do we do for children? But you said that finding these healthy foods and helping these healthy swaps not only helps you physically, but it
Yeah.
also helps you be a better mom
Oh, yeah.
and wife. Talk
Yeah.
to that. What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, food and health are connected. And I think a lot of us fail just because of lack of education on this to
Ugh.
realize the connection in it. So, when someone's fatigued all day or they feel drained all day, right? Or you're dealing with constipation or quite the opposite, running in the bathroom, or your cycles are out of whack, your hormones are out of whack, you're dealing with skin issues, mood fluctuations. This is all tied to your gut and what you're putting into your body. So when you get a more even level of your blood sugar, say from eating real foods, and you start to heal your gut, then your body, your hormones start to heal, and all your symptoms kind of dissolve a little bit and they get quieter. And then all of a sudden you have room for in your life, oh my gosh, I want to, go on a date with my husband. I want to play with my kids again. I want to cook for the family. Like, I'm happy. We're all having a good relationship, and you see things in your life flourish.
I love that because it's like when you feel better, you do better, right? It's that same, it's from the outside in.
Yes. And it all
Yeah.
starts from within. It's like I did a podcast yesterday with some naturopathic doctor, and she talks about, we're all having this toxic burden of environmental things and diet things and emotional things. And what's happening is our cups, especially females, moms, they're being drained. And if your cup is empty, well, now you're giving an empty cup to those around you. But if you do things that are fun and you do things that you love and you put your cortisol at bay and you have less stress and you are not feeling those symptoms that once took over your life, well, now your cup is more full. And then you can share that full cup with others and help others around you.
Yeah. And I love your kind of idea, the way that you present this is it's not, again, it's not all or nothing. You don't have to do this and cut this out. You can make healthier swaps and still enjoy things that you love.
Yes, it's mind blowing. And it doesn't have to be, it could be 80-20. So for a lot of people, I think they are trying to eat healthy and they probably generally eat 3 to 4 meals a week that are truly healthy and clean. But they're not feeling committed to it because they're going, I'm doing a little bit. Maybe I gave up my soda for the week, or maybe I'm eating less sugar, but I don't really feel or notice a difference. So they don't believe in it. Whereas if you are, eating clean all the time and maybe Friday night you want to go out with friends and you can't control what's at the party, or Sunday night you don't feel like cooking, so you go get takeout. Like, you'll feel funky after those meals and maybe the next morning, but you won't hinder your progress. You'll still be able to pick up where you left off. So I think kind of making that switch of let's do more good than bad, then we can really notice a difference.
I love that because, again, it's also, it's simple, but it's not always easy, right? But swapping is easier than just totally eliminating. I think it's one thing, though, to change your life, right? Like you have this, you experienced it, right? Once you experience it, it's hard to go back.
Oh, yeah.
But you've really changed this into your mission.
Yes.
Right?
So
how did this evolve? I mean, because you started out helping friends and family, and now it is a full-fledged business that is continuing to grow and thrive. So talk about that transition from something that lit you up to now serving the lives of so many people and helping them.
Yeah. So for the longest time, my family used to call my husband and I freaks. They were like, "Oh, Jen and Seth are bringing the freak food over, like for any holiday, right?" Because I knew.
What would you bring?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I knew when I would go to Thanksgiving or Easter, like these big holidays, it was just going to be this feast of awful, awful food, and I was going to feel terrible. And I'm like, this is not worth it. So yeah, it took extra time. Okay. And extra resources, but I knew I wanted to feel good when I left. And I also wanted to bring something that maybe people, for example, I would make a spinach artichoke dip. So instead of using like your Philadelphia cream cheese that people are using in Hellman's mayo that's laced with like soybean oil, you guys listening, even if your olive oil says, even if your mayo says olive oil, if you read the back, the first ingredient, soybean oil, then it's olive oil. So that's how tricky the labels are. You gotta be an avid label reader. But we would bring our spinach dip and our different chips, our chips made from like almond flour or cassava flour or something like that. And they would walk in, they're like, oh, here they come with their freak food. However, when we're all done eating, everybody is unbuttoning their pants. Everyone is exhausted. They're fatigued. You got people on the couch, mouth wide open, taking a nap type thing. No one wants to go throw the football outside with the kids. And my husband and I are like, oh, look, we don't say it, but we're like, look at this. Our health looks like from physical appearance, it's definitely improving. And other people are looking inflamed. So here's where it kind of took a leap of faith, though. I thought really this only works for me. And I knew it worked for my husband. I was like, okay, this is working for us. But I never thought I can use this information to help other people. It didn't even dawn on me. I was a spin instructor at this point because my workouts got better. I got more confident. And so I had 200 followers on my Instagram account, like your typical friends from college and your family. And my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer 5 years ago. So Wake Up started 5 years ago here. So my mom and dad came to me and they're like, hey, Jen, we know you eat healthy, right? You eat all the freak food. We think dad should eat the freak food too, because he has to go get robotic surgery and we need to get his inflammation down before surgery. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So I go to the grocery and I get 8 bags. I got like clean biscuits, clean marinara sauce, clean condiments, clean ice cream. I'm like, this is what you eat. When you run out of it, you take a picture, you go back to the grocery and you get it. So he did that. And in 3 months, he lost 35 pounds. He got off of blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication. But the real thing that I was like, whoa, this is freaky, is every 2 weeks he was going to get his labs drawn because they try to monitor your PSA level, which is the kind of cancer in your body for prostate. And they want to monitor it because while you're waiting on your surgery, they want to make sure, is it aggressively growing or is it kind of staying stagnant? And do you know, Hillary, during these 3 months, every 2 weeks, the cancer numbers were shrinking. They were going down. Okay. And I was like, oh God, Dad, oh my gosh. And then he's all excited. He's like, how about I don't get the surgery? How about I just shrink the cancer, keep shrinking it? And I was like, I don't know enough about cancer.
I'm not a doctor. Yeah,
I'm not a doctor. This is helping, right? It can't be wrong. So he goes to Johns Hopkins, gets the surgery, comes out, no side effects. He's doing great 5 years later, no reoccurrence of anything. And his inflammation was just so low that the surgery was amazing, perfect, like walked out like nothing ever happened. It was wild. So when that happened, I found a social media coach. His name's Mike Lemo. And I called him and I was like, hey, I think I want to start a business. I want to help people. He's like, do what? I said, eat clean and work out. Like, that's what I do. And he goes, get very uncomfortable, open your camera, get on Instagram and just take people through your day. Okay. So before my workout classes, I used to make like the eucalyptus towels. I would make a playlist. I'd spend 3 hours on a 50-minute playlist for my spin class. And I would go to the grocery and I was like, hey, here's my turkey sandwich. Here's my bread. Here's how I make eucalyptus towels. And do you know, in 2 weeks, well, first of all, I hired this guy and I didn't have a business. I was like a spin instructor. I might have been making $100 a week. Okay. And he told me, I lost sleep over this. He was like, I'll help you for 6 months. It's going to be $2,500 a month. I stayed up for 3 nights straight, having like heart palpitations, thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is crazy, yada, yada. Do you know, in 2 weeks of having this guy and him telling me just how to talk to people on camera, I had a lady in my workout class walk up to me with a blank check. And she said, take me grocery shopping before I started my spin class. She was about 55 years old. And I was like, oh my God, this lady wants me to take her grocery shopping. Like, how much do I charge? Do I have information that's actually going to help her? What do I do? So I rush home and I call Mike and I'm like, Mike, what do I do? What do I do? I can go on about what I do. But so I started private, taking people to the grocery, cleaning out their pantries, to group coaching, to online courses, to now I have an app.
And I want to get to that in a second, but I want to know what the decision point was when you say that you stayed up for 3 nights. You're this $2,500, 6 months, right? And you're making $100. Like, what was the decision? What was the moment that you were like, I'm going to do it. I'm all in, right? Because I
Yeah.
think we have those moments of fear, right? Because fear holds us
Oh, yeah.
back of deciding, because you're betting on you at that point.
Yeah.
So what was the decision?
I would like to give myself all the credit, but I really can't. I have to give my husband the credit. He's hired many coaches. And so he was like, he told me like he was the breadwinner at the time because he is a lawyer. And so he's like, Jen, we got this. I'll put it on credit cards. I believe in you. And coaching coaching's only going to make you better. It's not necessarily going to make
Sure.
you successful, but it's going to make you better. And at that point, I just thought I have an obligation to share with people this information because I have seen the transformation through my father. I've seen the transformation, through me and my husband. And while it's only 3 people, I thought I have to overcome that fear. Like I have to overcome the anxiety. I have to see and believe that this is going to be something. I didn't know that it was going to be somebody bringing me a check. I didn't know it was going to be,
Mm.
helping tens of thousands of women 5 years later. I had no idea. I just knew this is going to help me define what it is I want to do because I knew I wanted to do something. So I felt like it was like the step in the right direction.
I feel it's that idea of faith and fear, both it's the
Yes.
same. It's the
Yes.
unknown. So you just decide on where you're going to put your energy, right? And faith and the fear.
Correct.
And you talk about these profound people in your life, your partner, and it sounds like the decision was also coming from someone that's supportive,
Yeah.
right? And that's so important to have either one person in your corner that says, when we start to doubt ourselves, like, I believe in you, I got you,
Yes.
let's do it. But you also talk about your cousin Joy, who had a profound impact on your life.
Oh, yeah. Wow, Hillary.
How
Way to
did-
make me cry all of a sudden. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
I mean, how did witnessing her
Joy.
journey kind of
Yes.
shape your perspective on health and compassion?
Yeah. So Joy was born with pseudo-obstruction of the intestines. And right from birth, she lost her arm 2 weeks later because of kind of faults of the doctors leaving IVs in too long. But she conquered life and she lived till she was around, I guess, 18, going through intestinal transplants. Her mom, which is my aunt, had breast cancer. And this is a crazy story. My aunt, who had breast cancer, she also had a stroke. She was like on her deathbed at, I guess she was 41 when she lost the battle to cancer. But on her deathbed, her daughter Joy, my cousin, was on the intestinal transplant wait list for about 4 years. Okay. And when my aunt is on her deathbed, she could barely talk, but she told us, when I die, I'm going to tell God to give Joy her transplant. And do you know when she died? About 30 minutes later, we got a phone call that said, we've been on the wait list for 4 years. And they were like, hey, we're ready to do the transplant in Pittsburgh. And so they flew her up there, 18-hour surgery, super successful, gave her 6 more years of a good life. But Joy taught me that, what was your question? I just wanted to give some background on Joy.
I'm sorry, I'm just blown away with that story for a second. I will
Yes.
that believe in miracles. I mean, and
Wild.
that is,
Yes, she said it. My aunt said it. She passed away, and 30 minutes later, the phone rang. And you'd be waiting on that call for over 4 years.
they say, from my lips to God's ears, right?
Yeah.
But I said, how did witnessing her journey shape your perspective on health and compassion?
Oh, on health and compassion. Yeah, definitely compassion. I mean, I used to pick her up for joy rides. I used to bring her places because being a handicapped child, she was deaf. She had one arm, although she was beautiful, society doesn't see that as normal. So they treat her differently. They stare at her, kids point at her, kids laugh at her, that whole thing. So being with her all the time as a big cousin, although it wasn't me directly being impacted, I did see kind of life through her eyes and how even though people are different, you should still treat them the same. Because a lot of people don't know people that are that different, physical difference. And so a lot of those people will kind of corner them and make them feel lonely. And I think witnessing that, living that with someone like that gives you compassion for people like that.
Yeah. And you've talked about this, kind of the cruelty of life for those that are not considered normal.
Yeah,
right? And you
for
just mentioned that too. And So how has that experience influenced the way you approach healing people and helping people today through those choices?
Oh, yeah. Because a lot of people that are coming to me, many of us out there, and especially a lot of you listening, you have battles that maybe you haven't found the right podcast, that identifies your specific battle or your specific life. But I think that's kind of the beautiful story of life, is that we all have a different story. We all have a different path, right? And we all kind of are trying to reach the same goal, whether that's happiness, whether that's health, whether that's just consistency in your day. And so I think just giving yourself some grace, finding what works for you and allowing yourself the space to heal. And me personally dealing with these people, just listening to their stories and not writing them off and letting them know, I hear you. Your story might sound different than what you've heard. However, your story is that your body's really talking to you. If somebody has, chronic thyroid issues and another one has hormone issues or, swelling in their hands, something like that, like two totally different things, it really helps me figure out, okay, both of these people are living different lives, but ultimately they want the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like we all want happiness, joy, and love.
Yeah.
Right? Like at our core, sometimes we don't know how to get it, or we don't realize the things that are blocking us, right? And
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot of the experiences in your life give you that empathetic ear to really support people in something that's really hard and challenging. Because there's also, I imagine, shame in some of this. Like, I feel, or I am, I'm bad for not doing this sooner, or I wish I would have, or kind of that regret. And what is that like when women come to you with those challenges?
That's a tough one. It is a tough one. I think like the zest of life is happiness and health. It really is. And I do believe that a lot of people are experiencing that just already, but they kind of have blinders on and think it's somewhere else, right? They think, I got to work more. I got to be skinnier. I got to, be prettier to actually get to that health and happiness. But you're actually living it every day. So kind of not focusing on the past of what happened and forgetting about the future and really being present will allow you to see like what's going on this is happiness. This is life. This is good. So I think that's important.
And I just had a conversation with someone else too on the podcast about the inside out, right? Like it's about happiness from the inside out, not when I get this, I'll be happy. Not when I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happy, or when I do this. And then the struggle to get there.
Yes.
To try to create happiness versus like finding the happiness first. And then those other things kind of manifest because of that internal happiness that comes from acceptance or.
Yeah, for sure.
What is one of the biggest challenges that you see with women? Like, what is the fear of taking the first step?
Yes. The fear is that one, they won't be perfect. The other fear is that it costs a lot of money.
Okay.
And another real fear is like, my family isn't going to be on board with me. So I guess the support.
How do you walk through those with them? Because the perfectionism is real, I think, across women, period.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
I mean, I think that's a struggle. And so how do you address each one of those things with the women?
Yeah. So first of all, perfection, I would kind of relate that to the story we talked about earlier, where you don't actually have to be perfect, but you need to do more better than you are doing currently. So, doing better where you can. Are you eating at home? Well, then you can eat clean. Are you stopping at the coffee shop? Well, understanding which creamers are best. Or can you pack your sweetener and your creamer in your purse and just throw it in there? That way you don't have to overcome your habits, because some people love to go to the coffee shop or they love to meet their friends at the coffee shop, right? And so it's still living your same life and letting them know, hey, you don't have to change your life. You don't have to change your habits. You don't have to change your patterns. You strictly just have to tweak a little bit, the product that you're consuming. That's all. Just become aware. What was my other two?
The money. So expensive.
Money.
Saying that money is a big, because as you were sharing this, right, about the, and I'm forgetting the name, the brand that has just the cassava flour and water and lime, right?
Yes.
They don't have the marketing budget. And so how do people, right? And so I'm thinking like, wow, those must be expensive. Or where do I find those? So
for sure.
What do you tell women there? And what are some ways that you can help alleviate some of the expense? Or what are the things that you point to first?
Yes. So the first thing I always tell people is it costs money to be sick, but it's expensive No, I'm sorry. It costs money to be healthy, but it's expensive to be sick. Somebody came up with this and I read it. I was like, wow, it's so true. So most people don't realize that they are taking time off of work. They're taking medications. They're going to their doctor. And so they're spending a lot of money on, treating their symptoms all the time and missing out on opportunities in life because something's holding them back and they're tired and they're, feeling sluggish, things like that. So when you're eating clean, all of a sudden you're not spending money on that medication. You're not spending money, taking time off of work. You're actually making more money. You're getting bonus opportunities. You're performing better in your job. Things are opening up for you. You're achieving more things. That's number one. Number two is you actually eat less. This is like the most surprising. Yes, the most surprising thing for people is you eat less when you eat clean. So a lot of people think, oh my gosh, 3 meals a day, I'm going to pay more money at each meal. I have to get 2 snacks. I need 2 coffees. And it's like, no, you're actually consuming that much food all day because you're exhausted and you're starving. So that is what most of my clients report back immediately. Like one girl, she was going to Starbucks, I think like 8 times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. And if you factor in, okay, she was spending, I don't know, $15, $20 each time. It's like $150, $160 per week. Well, now, whether she's going to get her own coffee, she's doing it less, or she's making her coffee at home, like that's one expense cut out right there, right? And now she has more energy. Now she's less bloated. Now she's feeling better. So you're not going to be, society has created this whole, you got to eat 3 meals a day. Like some cereal company created the saying, I forget which one it is, but it was one terrible one. And it's like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Like if you wake up in the morning and you feel flu-like, you feel kind of dizzy, that's your insulin level telling you it's not healthy. And that's why you're needing food. So if you can wake up and just feel fine, then your insulin level is telling you, hey, I'm healthy. I'm good. I don't need as much food.
It's so, because when I went to this, there's a raw vegan high-end restaurant in New York City. And I went with a girlfriend and I remember we ordered like so much food because we were starving. And this was 15 years ago, right? It was kind of like, I think the beginning of, it'd been around a while, but so we went and we're like, and the guy was like, you're not going to need that much food. We're like, no, we're really hungry, right? Like we're really, and that was my first introduction into that idea that when you put food in your body, not man-made chemicals and things that your body doesn't know how to process, your body gets fuller sooner because it gets what it needs and then that's it. But when I start, eat processed food or things like that, your body doesn't know that it's full. It doesn't realize it's gotten the calories it needs because it's not food that you're taking in. Is that
correct?
Accurate?
Yeah, for sure. So when you eat real foods made with real ingredients, your body can recognize your blood sugar level stays more stable. When your blood sugar level is stable, that keeps you full and energized. When we eat foods made with fake ingredients or, the overly processed, enriched flours, our awfully inflammatory dairy, things like that, the fake sugars, your blood sugar spikes up. Well, what happens when it goes up? It's got to come down. And when it comes down, that's when you feel tired. That's when you're reaching for your energy drinks, your coffee. You feel like you need a snack before your next meal, like you can't make it to your next meal. It's because your blood sugar needs to come back up. So you're constantly in these like highs and lows, and it's just fatigue and hunger, fatigue and hunger, fatigue and hunger. And you spend more money.
Yes, exactly. And that's what, so it's funny because my partner, when we go to the grocery store, I come back with the pasture raised hens, the free range, they're $9 a dozen.
Yeah.
He's like, why?
Yeah, why?
And I'm like, because I don't want the chickens that are cooped up, that don't have that have antibiotics, that don't get the grass, that aren't fed food.
Yeah. This is how I like to think about it. Think about taking a human, okay, and giving them no sunlight, no exercise, right, and no healthy food. Is that human going to be healthy? Right?
No, we're ingesting that.
Yes. What are their muscles going to be like? So you got to think about that for your animal. Your animal needs exercise. Your animal needs sunlight, and your animal needs really good, high quality food in order for their muscles and their bodies and, their eggs, things like that, to contain high nutrients. So if you take a pasture raised egg versus your conventional egg, like some people will read, oh, it's a brown egg, it's an omega-3 egg, something like that. If you look at the nutritional differences, like the pasture raised has 3 times the amount of vitamin D. It has 2 times the amount of B vitamins. It has way more omega-3s, which is anti-inflammatory, whereas conventional eggs don't have as high of nutrients, and it has way more omega-6s, which is actually promoting your inflammation. So I always tell people, you are what your cow eats. You are what your chicken and your pig and your chicken eats. Like whatever they eat, you're eating it.
So Jen, could the same, and this is just a curious question, could the same thing be said then about meat? And what I mean by that is if you're eating, 20 ounces of factory farm meat, would 10 ounces, maybe not the exact measurement, fill you up the same amount of like a pasture raised, grass fed animal? Is it the same thing there or not really?
So you mean, is it going to fill you up differently?
Meaning, I think I'm not asking the right question.
Let's break it down.
I love this. Like when you're real food, right? Carrots, broccoli, grass-fed meats, right? Your body can absorb those nutrients and tells you when it's full.
Correct.
Right? So if you're eating meat from 2 different cows, one conventionally raised and one friendly raised.
Yep.
Would the amount of meat be different because the conventional cow has the soy and the byproducts and all the other stuff in it? Does that make sense more?
A little bit. So let me, I think
you might
I know.
Just cut this question out entirely.
It's okay. I'm really not good at asking questions or answering questions. So pardon me. Okay. So let's say you have 6 ounces of grass-fed meat, right? Pasture raised, grass-fed and finished meat. And then you have conventional meat where they're feeding them like corn, soy, and just sometimes trash, so to speak, right? One's a really healthy cow, one's a sick cow. If you're still eating 6 ounces of each, I think that, and I'm not a scientist here, but I think that 6 ounces are going to make you feel exactly the same at the moment. But what's going to happen is, nutritionally wise, you're never going to be able to eat enough conventional meat to make up the nutritional difference in the grass-fed. But what's the problem here is that you're also never going to notice you will notice a difference in your inflammation, your sleep quality, your skin, right? Your gut health, your chronic symptoms if you're eating the pasture raised in addition to a clean diet. But if you're eating the regular meat at your grocery store, don't really understand what the heck the cow's eating, and the inflammation is going to overtake any of those nutrition that could exist there.
Okay, that was a great question. That was a great answer to a very confusing question
We're allowed those. We're allowed them.
And the last thing you said was that the biggest challenge was that sometimes they don't have the support. So what do you tell women that are looking to make these changes? Because I think this is really true in anything. A woman that's looking to make a change in maybe a diet or not drinking alcohol or changing food, right? And they have a family system at home that doesn't support that change. What do you tell these women?
Yes. So I always tell people, especially women, especially moms, that kids don't listen to what you do, but they do listen. No, kids don't listen to what you say, but they do listen to what you do. Okay. So there's a lot of moms out there like, hey, kids, I need you to stop drinking Gatorade. I need you to stop eating Sour Patch Kids. I need you to eat healthy. I need you to eat healthy. No, we can't eat Chick-fil-A. And they're just like, oh, kids are like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And then it breaks down the mom trying to, make a change in the family. And she's like, oh, well, I guess I still got to take them to Chick-fil-A, and I guess I'm going to eat the grilled chicken with 100 ingredients and it's all inflammation. So what I tell them is that it's got to start with you. Like if we sit around and wait for the whole family to be on board, it will never start. And that's why probably most people listening haven't actually started, because they're waiting for their spouse. They're waiting for their friend. They're waiting for their kid. And like, I'm here to let you know that you're going to wait forever. That's not going to happen. So it's got to start with you. So I tell them, you can make the same things. You can make tacos, you can make burgers, you can make banana bread, you can make eggs and bacon, but buy the clean swaps. That way, when you sit down with the family, well, guess what? You give the kids their tortillas and chips, and you just have your tortillas and chips, but you're still eating tacos, right? Or if you're eating burgers, well, use the grass fed because no one will notice that, but give the kids their buns and you get your buns, which by the way, Pasha buns are the best. They're just sprouted
So
buckwheat
good.
and sea salt. Yeah.
Our friend
So
Will. Yeah.
yeah, Will, there you go.
Yeah.
Forget. So with that being said, start with where you are. What are you guys eating? Make that clean and make those simple swaps. And then they'll say, hey, mom, or hey, honey, from your partner, can I try one of those chips? Can I try a bite of that? And then when you find out, oh, they like the chips or they like the tortillas, they like the buns, they like that sauce, they like that barbecue sauce, like put it on the list to get it again. And then you slowly, they might find 2 things a month they like, but now what do they like? 24 things a year? Like that's transformational.
I love this. And I love that it's a journey too, right? Because a lot of times, whether it's food or something, we want that change to happen overnight. It's like, okay, I'm going to make the choice. And then tomorrow, everything is just going to be perfect. And to your point, like it's easier to do it in small incremental steps than it is to just do all or nothing.
Yeah. Some people start with like, all right, this week I'm going to do clean coffee. And they do that. And then the next week it's like clean coffee, clean breakfast. And then the following week, clean coffee, clean breakfast, clean lunch, which I applaud you. It is great, right? But it is nice to kind of do it all at once to really feel it. But once they, let's say they change their clean coffee, now they're not drinking mold and toxin coffee. Now they're drinking creamers with like 2 ingredients and they're not using refined sugars. So instead of your Splenda or your stevia, something like that, you're using coconut sugar, you're using raw honey, you're using dates, things like that. Well, you're going to notice, oh, maybe I don't need my second cup of coffee, or, oh, I am not running to the bathroom, or I don't have a headache all of a sudden, or I am not starving for breakfast. And so just changing that one thing in the morning, that ritual you're doing is going to set your day up for success. And it's going to motivate you to want to keep going for your day.
I love that. What's been the most rewarding moment in your career so far? Is there something you can think of help people?
I mean, I would say,
yeah,
the most rewarding is like the testimonials that come in because, like I said, I saw my inflammation and my health take a turn, a 180 in the positive direction when I did this. And then I saw the whole thing with my father where we got the PSA number shrinking. But like the women who, are lathering on creams and lotions for psoriasis, that like completely goes away, taking HCG shots for different things, or women dealing with depression after they've lost a loved one, like that completely going out the window. Some lady, she is, I don't know if they call it a psychic, but she can like see the future. That's her job. And she told me that she was starting to get fuzzy and couldn't see it as much, and then started eating clean, and that like clarity came back, and that talent of hers came back. And I was just like, what? This is insane. Other women, thyroid for sure, lupus, all these chronic autoimmune diseases, they are putting their symptoms at bay and getting off of their medications. And they're living a life without those symptoms bothering them. Just, I mean, anything you can think of, I have seen it. I'm like, this is insane. But it goes to show that like we're all different, but we're all the same. Like we're all eating the same foods. And whatever your symptom is, it's your body talking to you. It's just saying, hey, what you're doing isn't working for me. So when those symptoms go away, that's also your body being like, hey, this is working. I'm feeling great.
And I find that when you go there, it's hard to go back, right? Like you said that in the beginning, like once you know this stuff, it's one thing, but once you feel it, it's a different, right?
Yes.
You experience it, it's way different, because then it's even harder to go back. Okay, we have a couple minutes. I have 3 more questions. 1, you're a mom, a business owner, a wife.
Yeah.
Very active on social media. I love following you. You're realistic. You're present. You're like
just
relatable.
I'm like, you know what?
Mike was a good investment.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm looking like poop today, but I'm sure everyone viewing looks the same way. So let's just turn it on.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. How do you balance? Do you have rituals? Do you have habits? Do you have a routine? Like what does a day look like for you? I know they're probably all different, but
it's pretty consistent. I would say, I think consistency in one schedule, like a habit, provides a mood, right? Because it's, it's great not to be tethered to a desk all day and have to be reporting somewhere all the time. Like I've done that before. But if you just wake up and think, oh, I want to live my life, not having any real ritual and doing whatever I want to do, like it kind of it brings chaos to your life and you don't actually know what's going on. So must in my life is always I wake up and I make my kids breakfast. That is a must. They love waffles made from clean ingredients. They love bacon and egg wraps. They love smoothies. So sausage. I do that every morning. I also pack their lunches. I think it's very important. So that takes me about 45 minutes every day. But it's always they come downstairs. They're sitting at the kitchen island. We have the fireplace on like 6 months out the year because our house is cold. And so that moment is just like, wow, we're sitting here, we're being together, we're talking, and it's nothing unusual, but it's a staple. And then my husband brings them to school and I read a book for 20 minutes. I set a 20-minute timer because otherwise I will just get online and start scrolling. And I'm like, I can't do that. I will get in this trap and keep going. So two things. I actually deleted, and I apologize to everyone, I deleted every single person I follow. So I only follow one person who's my husband. And I do that because I used to get on Instagram and I would compare myself to other people in the same field and think, oh, I'm not doing it as good as them. And I would get caught on this whole comparison of them, or I got to post what they're posting about to stay relevant. And then I was like, this is just bringing me down. It's not letting me perform my optimal way. So one, I see a ton less on my Instagram, which is super helpful. So I read, then I always work out. I go to a Pilates studio. I do that probably 5 days a week. I also have some online platforms I use to do some cardio stuff. And then I have an infrared sauna that I do every single day. It's not always in the morning, but I try to get it done at some point in the day. So that kind of morning ritual of making the kids food, drinking coffee, reading 20 minutes, going to Pilates, and then infrared sauna. And then I'm like ready to really, I do best with creativity. So those things help my creativity really flourish and then create some content or record a podcast, something like that.
Okay. So can we do a quick lightning round of swaps? And then I have one more question. Okay. So it's just a list of 10 things.
Okay. Hope I know them. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's what is this for this, right? Like if you have this in your cabinet, switch it for this.
Yep.
Breakfast cereal.
Breakfast cereal, Lovebird.
Ooh.
Heard of it?
Peanut? Yes.
Okay.
We have this great grocery store here called Mom's, and I love going and just walking up down the aisles because they have all of these really not marketed foods, meaning like healthy, limited ingredients, no preservatives. And so I love it. Yes. Yeah. Peanut butter.
Maranatha peanut butter, because a lot of peanuts are actually grown in like shade. And so they produce mold. This is mold free. So it's from Valencia peanuts. That's what you want. The brand name is Maranatha peanuts. It has 2 ingredients, peanuts and salt. And it's made from Valencia peanuts. So know that.
I'm going to have you send these to me too, so I can drop them. Or I can
you can just
send them
scan
on your
it
website.
on the app. Scan it on the app.
That's right. We're going to talk about that. We're going to end with that.
Okay.
Salad dressing.
Salad dressing, I would go with Mother Raw.
Bread.
Bread, pasha all day, baby. In the freezer section.
Pasta.
Pasta, I love Capello's almond flour in the freezer section.
Oh, yes. I've seen that. I haven't tried
really
that.
Good.
You're like, okay. Snack bars.
Snack bars, I'm going to go with Thunderbird.
Soda.
Oh, Hillary, we don't do soda.
I know. So I've heard of like Olipop or Spindrift or something like that.
Okay, so like a
instead of
sparkling,
like maybe a sparkling is a better.
So a lot of the sodas have a forever chemical in it. You want to avoid that. So Olipop, Spindrift, and there's another one I can't think of. Mountain Valley sparkling water is probably the best out there.
My favorite.
Yeah.
I love Mountain Valley. Chips.
Chips? I'm going to go with chips. Oh, Tatamala. If anyone is listening, you need to watch this because Hillary is like, what? It's spelled Tatemada. And it is organic blue corn chip. And the way they make it is called nixtamalized. Basically, they take the corn like corn kernel. And they
Yeah.
squeeze lime on it, almost like a curing process, and that's what cooks it. So it never goes in any oil. It's really
I'm
cool.
Googling
And then,
this. I love
yep, there's no corn flour, anything. It's so good. And they make tostadas and they make salsa.
This
Are you
is
hungry
making
yet?
I'm starving now, and this is great because yes, okay.
Okay.
Coffee creamer.
Coffee creamer, 3 trees all day. The froth is amazing, and it's made from 2 or 3 simple ingredients.
Ice cream.
Ice cream, I'm going to go with Green Girl. They even have ice cream sandwiches with like the chocolate chip cookie, and it's all perfectly clean, squeaky clean. Green Girl.
Love it. Oh my gosh, those are all of my favorite things. And
There.
so
You just made your grocery
selfishly,
list.
I did. And Jen, last but not least, tell us about this app because we started the conversation and it went in so many directions that we were finishing with this because I'm thrilled for this. Tell everyone about your app.
So if you go to the App Store on any of your phones and you just search for Read the Labels app, you can grab it. And what you're going to be able to do is scan any of your items and it will tell you if it's clean, kind of clean, or not clean. And also when you scan it, it's going to show every ingredient in that product and it'll be red, yellow, or green. And you can click on the ingredient and you can read all about the ingredient, the sources for the ingredient, and figure out what the heck is this ingredient about. Also, when you scan an item, it'll show you alternatives. So it's a lot of the clean swaps.
I love this. And by the time this episode airs, it will have just launched. And so anybody listening can head right to the App Store now and download it.
Yep.
Anything else? What else? Where can people find you, Jen? I know you have great courses. I've done them. You're online. You're on Instagram. Tell us all the info where people can find out more about your work and what you do.
For sure. So you can follow me, like Hillary said, on social media at Wake Up and Read the Labels. I have podcasts, YouTube, all the things. But if you want all the swaps now, you can go to allcleanswaps.com. If you just want a weekly recipe in swaps, you can go to thelabelletter.com.
Love it. Jen.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'm so motivated to clean out my pantry this weekend.
Awesome. I'm glad that's where this went. And hopefully for everyone else, they're going to read their labels too.
I love that. Jen, thank you so much.
See you, Hillary.